quest for self-empowerment, for self-initiation, which is ascension, which is ultimately sovereignty. The quest for a self-empowered sovereign individual involves 4 types of rulership. To encapsulate, we've discussed rulership of the inner world, rulership of the outer world, and now in furtherance of the quest for initiation and self-sovereignty, we will discuss royal command of the outer world. Royal in the sense that you are divine. That is the level which you must comprehend that you are ascending to. Not only are you ascending to the top of the dung heap of the Harmonic Universe number 1 of dimension 3 and the dimension of absolute, you are putting upon the mantle of Pharaoh. The royal serpent blossoms within your brow, within your third eye, your command structure, your master control center. No longer are you working from the reactive control center of a helpless worm buffeted about by the whims of circumstance and the controllers of this world, but you are in command by establishing command of the inner world and thus command of the outer world. Now the next level, the third task, is assuming royal command of the outer world, the royal serpent upon your brow. And human beings, muggles, Terrans of the 3D world, although now that you've established command of your inner world, and thus as within, so without, as above, so below, you have, by establishing command of your inner world, you now have a modicum of command of your outer world. This royal command of the outer world is the next stage, the third task. And that involves the making of other human beings better. The 100th monkey effect, the tipping point, the consensus of consciousness, the raising of consciousness of your fellow humans, making other human beings better, sharing this information. And sometimes people in this endeavor, such as organized religion, seek to make other human beings better through a weak and vain desire. Which is simply a desire to show off. Think of Robert Tilton, the prayer universities, the great televangelist, Jimmy Swaggart, all these people that were later found out to be enmeshed in materialism and egotism, narcissistic ego, big business, mega churches. Just a desire to show off that they're helping other people, they're doing the Lord's work when they're doing anything but. Organized religion essentially is in the business of making people good herd animals. Submissive. But oftentimes the lone wolf, the person on this path, gets caught up in occult one-upsmanship or occult battles and magic battles, being worried about what their more sinister seeming occultist thinks about them and judging them by that standard, and thus losing sight of the true royal command of the outer world, which is essentially to make those around you more powerful, thus by understanding and accepting these desires, we can not only engage in the pleasures that come from them, helping your fellow man, but also transform ourselves into yet more sovereign beings by sharing your sovereignty, by sharing the knowledge and the path of royal command of the outer world. You only further empower and further establish your own sovereignty by doing so, because the desire to show off is essentially what organized religion is all about. Constantly running your mouth about how you're doing the Lord's work. And this desire to show off is, everyone falls prey to it, and it's used by forces outside of ourselves, the controllers, the dark controllers of the digital matrix, that prey upon the lower three animal chakras, the energy centers. The desire to show off is typically used by forces outside of ourselves for their gain. They want to sell us a snazzy car, the latest car, the most powerful computer, the latest iteration of the iPhone. iPhone number 36 with VR and orgasmatron. Or, wearing nicer clothes than your neighbors. And good primates, good monkeys that we are, good primates that we are, we fall for this trick every time. Yet more proof that man, in his fundamental default state, is a machine, beholden to the lower three animal centers. And that's okay if you want to be a good animal, but if you want royal command of the outer world, you must rise as a meta-human. But we can use this desire to our advantage by learning to show off displays of wisdom and virtue that will attract a certain type of individual, because we are known by the company we keep. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So do you want little animals around you beholden to their every little whim and desire, easily manipulated by their base desires? Or do you want meta-humans, fellow rulers, fellow royal commanders of the outer world? This is a good first step in that it takes rulership of the desire away from an external force and places it with an internal one. Essentially, the voice of Atman. Now, we have to be careful at this stage because it leads to the guru game. Your ego will constantly be tested by Ahriman, by Lucifer of this world, by the controllers of this world, the archons of this world will constantly seek to tempt you, as they did to Yeshua when he spent his time in the fields and deserts of perdition, tempted by Hasatan. So be careful of this guru game, of setting yourself up as a guru once you establish this power, once you sense your power, once you begin to make reality conform to your divine will, to the divine plan. Because essentially that is what this is all about ultimately, is that your little ego has been put in its place. It is your animal to control in service to the divine plan, in service to your fellow man and woman. Let us not forget the women of this world who give us life. Let us not forget Tara, fifth dimensional Gaia, the planet that gives us life, and Father, our Father, Son, Father, Mother, the polarities, negative, positive polarities that are life. But we seek the middle path, the path of the Christ. So beware of the guru game, having lots of followers that admire you, while we bask in a wisdom that is small, while we settle for the small prize. We have been tempted, and our eyes are now on another prize, but which is more of the same, but it never stops. You must constantly be vigilant, constantly filter your ego, your energies, and keep your eye on ascension, the ultimate prize. So if we decide that we will make ourselves wiser and more powerful so that we will have more to teach, we can indulge in the follower game all our lives, and that's all it is. But essentially, the great secret of teaching is learning. That is my passion. It's not that I have anything necessarily unique to talk about. It's by talking about it and sharing, I'm constantly reinforcing and learning. And also, I get to work on my lisp that I have. Ever since I started making videos, I realized I had a little lisp. It's okay. It's all right. Please, hit the subscribe button. But we must constantly be vigilant when we establish royal command of the outer world. A command of the outer world with style, as a pharaoh who thinks of his people. Now, that's not meant to be egotistical, but when you are self-sovereign, when you have ascended, you are in command of your reality, but you are a creator, a co-creator. When you have accepted that you are God and that you have divine co-creative capabilities, you are ruler, you are the royal commander, you are Pharaoh. But so is everybody else. They just don't know it. And your task is to help them know it. That is our task here at the Amon New Earth Ashram, is the creation of pharaohs. As we get better, we also have to help others get better so that we have people to talk to. And they, in turn, begin to desire followers, having the same weakness and vanity that we do. Slowly, we change our desire to show off into a desire for peers, and thus we create schools that perpetuate our thoughts. Please, leave this video a thumbs up, as it helps to indicate to the algorithm that the Amon New Earth Ashram is here to stay. Now, the desire to help out people comes from the refinement of the emotion. A more elevated perspective upon your emotions. Most people begin this path of emancipation. Most people begin this path of self-sovereignty, of ascension, in a state of disillusionment and rebellion. Yes, once you begin to see the prison matrix, once you begin to realize you have been preyed upon by a merciless predatory system, oftentimes you become angry, rebellious, seeking to get back, wanting to be the boss rather than be boss like you had been. You got to boss up. You want to boss up and start bossing. The emotional states here are anger and greed and jealousy. The dark side of human nature is where the good will come from. The shadow is the initiator, but as self-power is gained, so comes the capacity for a non-sentimental love of others. The aspirant upon the path of emancipation, of ascension, recognizing as viruses personal strength and self-knowledge, does what he or she can to help others create the states, the elevated states. If this emotion is not carefully watched, it can devolve into a dangerous sentimentality that causes us to make things too easy on those who come after us. But if it is carefully refined in the light of one's own past experiences, it can become an igniting force, a spark that awakens the gifted but sleeping members of the collective. The sleeper must awaken. If these two desires are carefully blended, balanced, and brought to bear with the hard-won wisdom of the first two tasks, establishing control of the inner and thus the outer world, the initiate, the aspirant upon the path, has a great magnetic power. He or she can take the circumstances of others around them and turn them into an endless process of refinement. He can help his students get over the death of a friend. She can help her employees cope with changing working conditions, and so forth. Everything that happens around them becomes an opportunity for those who would be better to get better. While this great benefit is being visited upon others, the initiate is merely considering what to do or say to his friend. followers, or fellow travelers, fellow aspirants, we are refining constantly our own thoughts and moods, our own demeanor. By initiating others, self-initiation is furthered, both by articulation and seeing whether or not one's theories work in the world. And the magical name for this state is called the practice of alchemy. If you so desire to continue upon this path of alchemy and establishing command, establishing the royal serpent upon your brow, and thus your pharaohship, please hit the subscribe button and leave this video a thumbs up. Namaste. Namaskaram.